Welcome, everyone, to the latest T20 World Cup preview with myself, Steve Wyss, and cricket specialist Kevin Harper. Well, you're not just a cricket specialist, to be fair, but you know your stuff on cricket. So on to the second game for Wednesday, and this is West Indies against Zimbabwe. A shock defeat for West Indies, of course, against Scotland. And if they lose this one, they're under major pressure against a Zimbabwe side who were mightily impressive, I thought, against Ireland. So, as always, we start with the venue and conditions. We are in Hobart. We're at the Bellerive Oval, which I thought played really well, actually, the first two matches. It was great, lovely scenery, but the wicket played really well, didn't it, as well? And hopefully it will do the same again, because we've got a great-looking weather forecast, as we said in the previous game on for Wednesday. The sun's going to be shining. This is the evening match, though, in Hobart. It's 7 p.m. local time, so maybe watch out for a bit of dew later on or whatnot. So it might be one of those times you do want to be chasing. I don't know. But fundamentally, no rain around, which is what we want to see. So let's check out the teams then. West Indies. Well, what actually went wrong for them, Kev, against Scotland there? I mean, it wasn't a big shock to you. A lot of that is credit to Scotland, but West Indies have got problems, haven't they?
Yeah, they have got problems, Steve. I don't think the problems are anything new, though. The problems that we saw them have in that opening game were the problems they carried into the tournament. They don't rotate strike. Their success comes on small grounds where they bash everything out of the park. And as I mentioned in the outright preview, the group preview, and indeed on Monday, it's just not a profitable solution here in Australia. This is a fairly small ground, but in order to bash balls out of the park, you still need some pace to work with, and Scotland weren't stupid. They gave them absolutely no pace to work with. They bowled slightly back of a length, so the batters either had to come down the wicket to try and put some pace on the ball, or just stand and use brute force. Well, brute force didn't work, and the other thing they've not got that mystery spinner like Sunil Narine, who was always 4 banker overs, and basically when they were bowling with him in the side, they were effectively a 16-over bowling side. Well, now they're a 20-over bowling side, and quite often they're really ill-disciplined, bowl a lot of wides, and sometimes they can even be bowling as many as 21, 22 overs in the field. It's just, it's just the way they are. But until it changes, they're always going to be inconsistent now.
I mean, they're 1-3 favourites to win this game, bigger than they were against Scotland. And it's interesting that no one seems to really make the mind up here. There's a sea of blue on some prices, a bit of red elsewhere. I mean, that's not where your hard-earned cash would be at that price, would it?
No, it wouldn't. No, if I was betting on the match outcome, I'd be happy enough to take my chances on Zimbabwe. They were very good on Monday. Not sure what they beat, but they were very good.
Let's talk a bit about Zimbabwe then, because they were mightily impressive, like I said, and certainly a couple of performers in particular did stand out. I mean, you factored that in heading into the Ireland game. You expected them to beat Ireland. This might be a tougher game for them. It will be a tougher game for them, you'd think, if West Indies actually show up. But what are the strengths of this team that they can really cause problems with West Indies?
They've got a lot of batting depth in their side, haven't they? That's one thing you would say about them. That's evidenced if you look at the fellow at number 8 on the scorecard. I mean, he basically gives how far he hits the ball away, doesn't he? And, it's...
It is one of the better names in the tournament, I must say.
It's brilliant, for anyone that's wondering what I'm on about. It's Luke Johnway, or Longway, as...
Longway.
As I'm sure many
he can
people
biff it. He looks like he can hit it a young way, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was scoring at 200 strike rate, wasn't he, in that game against Ireland? Sikandar Rasa, those the strength, isn't he? I mean, my word, what an innings that was! What an innings that was against Ireland. The sixes weren't sixes; half of them were 12, weren't they? And I mean, he had a piece of wood that the ball was coming off of it like an absolute shell. And if West Indies don't get him early, then they're really going to be in a spot of bother. But what I really liked about Zimbabwe in that opening game, in all seriousness, was the way they bowled with the new ball. I mean, the two new ball bowlers. The first one was the left armer was swinging it in, really tough to get away. And the second one, the first ball he bowled, swung miles, and then he was getting seam movement, and then he brought on the gun, blessing Muzambani, and he hit his straps right from the off as well. I mean, if they bowl with the new ball here, like they did in that game, there could be some serious carnage because West Indies are going to come at them. You know, Kyle Mayers stays in his crease and just hits through the line of the ball, as we saw against Australia. Evan Lewis is very much the same as well. It's only really Brandon King in that top order that's got any kind of technique whatsoever. So if they bowl like they did and can get assistance out of the pitch like they did, West Indies are definitely in a spot of bother here.
Yeah, Yongwei looked about the only bowler who looked easy to hit because he just bowled it right in the slot. I think he was just trying to pitch it up a bit more, wasn't he? He just couldn't quite get it, so it sat up nicely. But none of the other bowlers looked just easy to get away from what I saw there. And we do have 3 bets for this game. But before we mention them, I know you said you were tempted by Zimbabwe. Why are you not actually going to take them to win?
It's one of those that I think West Indies will probably have a bit of a dressing down from that first game. And I think they'll take this a bit more seriously. And having had a game on the conditions and everything else like that, I fancy West Indies might just have enough about them to get this one done. And also, I'm just not overly sure what Zimbabwe beat, Steve. I really think Ireland are a poor side, and they showed it. And I don't think West Indies will be quite as bad. Whether they're good enough to win, well, we'll find out. I certainly wouldn't put anyone off back in Zimbabwe. Absolutely, I wouldn't. I just think better bets come in the other markets, as you'll find out shortly, because my biggest bet of the tournament comes along in this match.
A 5-unit stake on over 9.5 sixes. And as I say, this is simple. The amount of total sixes in the game that come off the bat. Well, they're not going to come off any other way, are they? Unless it's like, actually, no, you could be overthrows in fairness. But total match sixes, then you think there's going to be some big hits.
Yeah, because part of the problem that the West Indies have got is they weren't just beaten by Scotland, were they? They lost by 42 runs. So somewhere between now and the end of the group, they've got to make those 42 runs up. Even if they win 2 games, you've got to think that Scotland are going to win against Ireland. And if Zimbabwe, for example, were then to go and beat Scotland, all of a sudden you've got 3 teams on 4 points. So West Indies are going to have to make those 42 runs up. How do they make 42 runs up? They make 42 runs up by getting their front leg out of the way and starting to hit some sixes. That's the only way they know how to bat. So they're going to have to come out and do that. There's going to be some fire met with some fire here because, as we've just said, those 3 Zimbabwe seamers, they looked pretty tasty. But what they did do is they bowled it at a full length, didn't they? They try and get assistance from the pitch. So they pitched it up. And if the ball doesn't swing against this West Indies side, that could be absolute carnage. But it's not just West Indies who are going to hit sixes in this match. Zimbabwe hit quite a few sixes themselves, albeit against Ireland. But let's not forget that Josh Little in that Ireland side, he's as quick as anyone in this West Indies side, maybe with the exception of Azari Joseph, who's got a little bit of nip about him. There's no mystery spin in this game whatsoever. So there's no sort of second guessing which way the ball's going to turn or anything. All the spinners in this game, they're all finger spinners. So you'll be able to read the spin really, really well. The short square boundaries here are just there for the peppering. Bouncing the pitch is good. Everything about the pitch is good. The fact that the West Indies have to go for sixes is very much a help. And also, let's not forget that McCarthy of Ireland clobbered 2 absolute monster sixes, and he batted at 10. So some of these West Indies players, if they're up against this Zimbabwe death bowling, I mean, even if you're on the beach, you might need to look out. There's going to be some carnage in this game, Steve. It's just the way the margin of the victory that Scotland got over the West Indies is going to force West Indies' hand now. Now it's actually in their advantage that they can't rotate the strike and that they're going to try and biff everything out of the ground because they've actually got license to do that.
I would agree with this pick from what I saw from that match. These boundaries are not that big square at all. The pitch looks good. I think the warmer weather might even help the hitting as well. And the West Indies, you're right, they could clobber some of these sixes halfway to Antarctica, quite literally. And that did worry me a little bit about Zimbabwe sort of death bowling potentially. It could be carnage. It might be worth looking at in running if you're on a runs line with 5 overs to go and West Indies say they bat first. I'd be looking at some sort of over because I think they could really clean up late on there. So over 9.5 sixes, hopefully that comes in. Now, Christmas is on its way, Kev, not too far away. And we're going to see or hear a lot of old Noddy Holder, aren't we? But this is Jason Holder on the performance line again for West Indies, over 31.5 performance points. He absolutely cruised it the other day, but the line hasn't gone up at all. So this is remarkable performance bet at Bet365. 1 point for a run, 20 points for a wicket, 10 for a catch, 25 for a stumping. But yeah, get on Jason Holder here to make some money to buy some Christmas presents and then enjoy Noddy Holder over Christmas. Simple.
Yeah, they wish it could be Christmas every day, and it is here, isn't it? Because, like you say, I really don't get where this line's coming from. He didn't just cover it in the first game. He covered it with the ball, and then just for good measure to make sure he covered it with the bat as well. And, for it not to move at all, it's staggering, really. I mean, Jason Holder, as I mentioned on Monday, he's such an underrated cricketer. It's untrue. He's one of the best all-round cricketers in the world in all formats of the game. He plays in all of the franchise leagues. It's not like he's unknown. He's been their test captain, for crying out loud. He is an absolute superstar of the game. Just because he's not called Andre Russell or Chris Gale or Kyron Pollard, he seems to go under the radar for some reason. But just look where he bats at 6 and bowls 4 overs in times where teams come after him, and they probably will have to come after him as well, Zimbabwe, if their openers struggle like they did against Ireland. So he's just absolutely perfect. I keep on harping on about these 3D cricketers, don't I? But you saw exactly that on Monday. He played really well with the ball, got 2 wickets, covered the performance, and then he played really well with the bat, got 37 runs, covered the performance, or 30 or whatever runs it was, covered the performance, didn't take any catches, but they can still come down in his direction as well. I don't understand how this line hasn't moved at all, particularly when you consider that in the very same match, Sakenda Raza has a player performance line of 36, who's a good player in his own right, but he's on the lesser side, and his bowling's probably not going to be quite as suited to this wicket as Jason Holder. The matchup in particular that I like, Steve, is Holder with the ball. If you think back to that Zimbabwe game against Ireland, Josh Little got 2 batters out with the short ball, or a ball that sort of got big on the batsman. Well, Holder bowls that length naturally. He doesn't even have to bend his back to bowl that length because of his height. So I can see him getting wickets with the short ball. Obviously, he can get wickets with the full ball. And as you just alluded to, if Holder's the man who's there at the end when Zimbabwe are bowling, he'll pin his ears back and let it fly. I just cannot see a situation where even in an average Holder performance, he doesn't get 32 points. So in a good one, he should fly past it.
Yeah, it's just a 3-unit pick, but this almost feels like it should be more. But I guess with a player, there's always a risk of an injury or something just going wrong with a freak ball. So playing it safe with the unit selections there. We're going to move to the top batsman market. You've got a pick here in the West Indies top bat, and a big price as well. I mean, we had 80-1 pick the other day, which really wasn't the worst one at all in the world. And you've got a 35-1 shot here on Odean Smith. Talk us through his chances.
Yeah, I mean, with Mark Adair the other day, it was very much hit or miss whether he'd get going. Odean Smith, he is the next Andre Russell. He's probably the biggest hitter of a cricket ball in world cricket right now. He's done it in the Caribbean Premier League. He scored something like 42 off 16 for Guyana in the Caribbean Premier League. 6 sixes. He absolutely smoked each and every single one of them. There's absolutely no technique to him. He'll very much get his left foot out of the way and try and smack it a million miles. But as we saw against Ireland at the death, that's exactly what you can do to this death bowling. So that's very much a positive. He'll be someone who will come in to try and maximise the innings if they bat first. He's already scored some runs in Australia. He clobbered Josh Hazlewood for a couple of big sixes in the series against Australia earlier in the month. And yeah, he's that Andre Russell type player. Smacks it an absolute million miles when he gets hold of it. If he gets hold of one here, Steve, you don't need to worry about being in the stadium. Just throw a new ball and let's crack on.
Yeah, it's in the sea, isn't it? If he middles one by the sounds of it, this lad. And what number do you think he's going to bat, though? Or could it change?
Oh, he batted 8, didn't he, against Scotland? But he will, he'll float a little bit depending on the situation.
Yeah.
He probably won't go up, but he won't be no lower than 8. And obviously, as we saw, Zimbabwe might do some damage at the top of the order, but maybe not so at the bottom of the order. He'll top score for West Indies if they stay in this tournament long enough, somewhere along the line, Steve. Who knows? It might well be here.
Yeah, worth a nibble for 1 unit at 35-1 anyway. No harm in that, is there? And on to just a bit of a talk about the Zimbabwe top bat market. I must say, Sikandar Raza did look a class apart against Ireland. He does. I mean, he's second favourite in the market here, and we have to factor in he bats middle order. But you would think against West Indies he'll get a good chance again.
Yeah, you would. The only thing you would say is West Indies death bowling's better than Ireland's death bowling, so he'll be going up against Obed McCoy, Azari Joseph, Jason Holder, those kind of players. But I mean, let's be fair, that innings, everything come out of the middle of the bat, didn't it? And if you think of the Ireland innings, the top scorer for Ireland, everything was off the edge behind the wicket. Nothing was off of Sikandar Raza's edge, all off the middle of the bat. Yeah, he's a class actor. Like you say, he does bat 5 though. So if West Indies do bat first and get shot out, we don't think they will, but you can never completely rule that out of the equation. If that does happen, he might not get enough time at the crease at number 5 to top score. That's the risk you're taking. But in a normal game, 4-1 looks a decent price based on what we saw in that first game. I'm still not convinced that Madhavir at 9-2 is not the worst price in the world, but yeah, it's all on Raza at the minute, isn't it?
Certainly is. Let's have a recap then of the bets for this game. And we've got over 9.5 sixes. That's a 5-unit pick, the biggest bet yet advised from us in any of these T20 World Cup shows. Jason Holder performance line over 31.5. That's a bet 365, a 3 units selection there. And Odean Smith, top West Indies bat, 35-1, 1 unit, bit of an outshot there. So all the best of luck with that one, Kev. Remember, do follow us on the socials. We've got 4 Twitter accounts you can all follow us both on, and take a look at Kev's website because, like I said, we are recording this match a couple of days in advance. Certainly for the Ireland-Scotland game on Wednesday, it might be a couple of added picks there for you, Kev. But we'll be back to preview Thursday's games very soon. Hope you go well with all those picks, Kev, and best of luck.
Cheers, Steve. Here's small winners, mate.
Let's have a good one. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.